Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Canned Air, your tribute to pop culture. I am Jeremy Colley.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
And today on the show, another one of those cool guests, a really freaking cool guest. Very lucky to have this guy on the show. You probably have heard his voice, whether or not you've even known it. He's done stuff like Dragon Ball Z. He was Frieza in the Ocean dub, Kong in Kong, King of the Apes, Ripster in Street Sharks, Snips, My Little Pony, and George in George of the Jungle, which in 2008 won him the Electronic Animation Award, Best Male Voiceover Artist of the Year. And that award was given to him by Seth MacFarlane, something we probably should have touched on with him when we spoke with him. And on top of this, you're about to find out how talented this guy is all the way around. It's not just voiceover, is it, Randy? I mean, this guy...
No. Yeah, we'll touch on it after the interview.
Yeah, but we welcome award-winning voice actor Lee Tockar to the show, and damn, what a great conversation. This is one of those conversations, sometimes when we do these things, I don't feel like we always have good conversations, but I don't feel like we always scratch into the surface. Connect, thank you.
Yeah.
And this is one of those cases where we connected very well. And, Lee tells us some really personal stuff, some really candid stuff about him, who he is, where he comes from. And, I want to thank him so much for doing that, being that open with us and our audience, because it means the world to us. And we don't get it a whole lot. I mean, we get it sometimes, but not like this, at least in my opinion. So we want to remind you guys to check out our socials, all listed above here, our website listed below. Check us out on evergreenpodcast.com. We'll go over that more at the ending, but we don't want to waste any more of your time right now. We just want to get right to our conversation with Lee Tockar. Lee, thank you so much for being here with us today, man.
It is my extreme pleasure.
It's an honor to have you here, man. Looking at your list of work, I mean, you've been busy since the early 90s and so many voices that we've all heard, so... It's incredible to talk with you, but I have to ask you, because you're in British Columbia, correct? Up in Canada.
Vancouver, British Columbia, yes. No, originally from Kelowna, British Columbia, which is a 4-hour drive from here in the interior. Okay. Yeah.
But based on your time, so that's got to be in the that's Pacific time zone, so that's in the west part of the country. What's the weather like up there?
Today, well, it's been slightly cooler, which I love because there's over 420 forest fires here in British Columbia right now. Jeez. So kudos to our firefighters. Last year, my hometown of Kelowna, it actually was pretty decimated by the fires. And my favorite town in Maui that I spent a lot of time at the Vladimir Kush Gallery, getting to know Vladimir Kush, as I'm a painter, a surrealist, and the entire front street of Lahaina, all of Lahaina, gone.
Oh man!
In a blue ray flash from above. Nobody knows, but anyway, that's a whole other soapbox. So I'm from Kelowna originally, and I live now in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Okay. And happy to be so.
I would love to visit there. I've never been to Canada. I'd love to visit any part of Canada, but definitely Vancouver.
Oh, start with Vancouver, my friend. Oh my gosh. It's that we pay an extraordinary amount of money for beautification tax. Like this is the tax that we spend on, higher rents and things to look at all of the vistas around us, the Whistler Mountain, Grouse Mountain, the tree lines, everything. It's beautiful.
It sounds like it. Sounds much more beautiful than Columbus, Ohio.
I don't know Columbus, Ohio exactly, but I can only imagine that, yes, it probably is.
I mean, it's nothing you're going to want to put on a bucket list or anything, but, if you find a con or something.
I wish I would have gone to Columbus. Oh, hi.
Yeah. Damn it. Maybe if we rush him to Columbus, he'll survive.
I don't know if there are any
not.
surviving Russians. Anyway, yes. So I am ready to embark on this wonderful journey with you, gentlemen. And so
Sure.
please let us, in your own time, uh, because this is your show. But I tend to take up a lot because I talk like a lot. So you're just gonna have to cut me off when you feel, because I mentioned I talk a lot. Okay,
It's
good.
hey, for a podcaster, that's a good problem to have. I think.
Right. Yeah.
It's the
Um,
one that doesn't talk at all that becomes problematic.
Yeah. The one word
oh,
answer, and then they just stare at you.
They just say
oh God.
yes.
No, I am the very opposite of that. I have been known in interviews, and I have done hundreds of them, that I pontificate and I just talk a lot. Yeah, I talk a lot. So there you go. So you
Okay.
have me. I am malleable. Ask me your questions, and I will present to you the facts as I know them, unrehearsed and from off the cuff and from the deepest parts of what I know life to be for me. And
Wow.
there you go.
This is going to be good. Okay, well, let's just jump right back as we always do when we're talking to someone like yourself. Back to when you were a child. Like to know where all this started. Online, we can see at 5 years old that you had told your mother you wanted to grow up to be a cartoon. I
You
mean,
did?
I think I had the exact same wish as a child. And that at 10, I believe you won a talent show for your impersonations of, who was it, Bugs Bunny, and who was the other one?
Humphrey Bogart,
And
Kermit the Frog,
Kermit, that's what
and
yes.
I couldn't think of anything else. I can't remember right now, but that was a long
But
time ago. That was at least 16 traumas ago. So
oh, that's a great way to map out time, isn't it? I should do that. I
it is.
remember stuff
I know.
much clearer. But
No, yeah.
what was it about cartoons? Not that it's a mystery to me. I understand the appeal, but to you yourself, what was it about the cartoons that intrigued you so? And what do you remember? What shows you were watching at the time that you wanted to grow up to be?
Yes, absolutely. So, okay, it's probably a pat answer for a lot of young fledgling or dinosaur voiceover actors and actresses, actors, is that Mel Blanc. When I
Mm.
was watching Bugs Bunny, I lived with my grandma and grandpa, Blanche and Bill, from 1 to 5. My mother she had me she was just turning 16.
Oh wow.
That
Wow.
those were the days. They had no cable. What are they gonna do, the kids? Anyway, so I would sit. Once my stepfather and mother moved out, just like 17 blocks away, I would go every Sunday and Saturday and Sunday to my grandma and grandpa's place. After grandpa passed away, I would go over there and sit on the high piled carpet in front of the wooden floor mount TV, and I would just watch Bugs Bunny, Bugs Bunny, Bugs Bunny. And eventually, I think a year later, I saw the credits and I said, "You mean one guy does all of those voices?"
Yeah.
And June Foray as well. She was one lady who did all of the other voices. June Foray, Mel Blanc. And so I knew, and that's what was the predecessor for me saying to my mother, "I want to grow up to be a cartoon," which I'm sure she thought I was insane and I needed therapy and or drugs to curb my delusions. But that was it. It was Mel Blanc, and it always will be. And I believe it has been for so many. He was the forefather of all of us.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you the number of people that have been through here who have just gone on and said the exact same thing. Bob Bergen, Billy West, just to name a few that come to mind. Rob
Of course.
Paulson talked about it. But,
Yeah.
it's still
Of course.
incredible to this day, his work. It's something to look at and marvel at because you do have people doing multiple voices within shows, but not quite like that. The closest thing I could think of would be like Billy West on Futurama doing like 4 or 5 of those characters at a time. But like
Yeah.
like you just said, Mel did all the male voices, and I'm sorry, what was her name? I can never remember.
June Foray.
June Fourier did the female voices. That to this day
Yeah,
is incredible to me.
it is. The only time I've had 4 or 5 uh, characters in one show was Johnny Test because I played Bling Bling Boy who will destroy Pork Belly unless Susan Test goes on a date with him. And then there was the General, and that is a missile. A missile. I knew that. And Speed McCool. Hey, I like your monkey. And Albert the Butler and Mortimer Mouse. So I was at least five or six characters in that show. So that was and I even noted to myself, I finally matched the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so neat. So, when you're doing all those characters, do they all share scenes together at the same time, or like you
A
jumping
lot
back and
of them,
forth? Or
yeah, many times a lot of them did. Like there will be
Mhm.
three. Oh, and I also played Jude. That was Bling Bling Boy's mother from the other room. Never seen. Yeah, so I was just thrilled. I was tickled, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that because I'm
Sure.
just honored to be in this industry that has treated me so well.
Right.
Also, going back online, I saw at the age of 12, you wrote a 2,000 word essay on horror. And I
Oh my
believe,
God. Nobody knows that.
Lee, this
They
is
do
your
now.
life. No,
Yeah.
This is your life. Yeah. Yeah, I won a district-wide public speaking competition that involved high schools as well as my elementary schools. So elementaries to junior high to high schools, this was an open competition.
okay,
And I wrote something on horror films. And I was just a, precocious lad. And
sure.
because I've had summer camps for the blind, because my parents didn't want me around, so they just pushed me onto these counselors for the camps of the blind, which I learned a lot. Learned to ride a horse, learn how to groom and shoe them, like if as a farrier, all that stuff. But back to it, I learned so much from those experiences that I can't remember what I was talking about. And that is the most important thing, because if you could remind me what I was talking about, that'd be great.
The horror
Oh, yes, the horror.
films,
Oh,
yes.
yes, the horror. And I remember getting a plaque, but I was up against so many people and so many well, in that one school district,
Yeah.
so many grade levels. And it started out, if I recall, as I'm here to talk to you today about, but imagine being a higher voice. I'm
Sure.
here to talk to you today about horror movies. Yes, horror movies. Those dastardly things that keep you up till all hours of the night to watch. And what for? To scare yourself silly. Yes, I said silly. And that's how it started. I always remembered that opening, but this is the first time somebody's asked about that experience. So good on you, old boys, for doing your due diligence.
I'm just
Eh,
curious, were you a big fan of that genre? Are you still, or is it just kind of a topic you landed on?
I was because they scared me so much.
Okay.
I had a dream when I was a kid. This is totally off topic, but and something I've never told anybody, but I used to have dreams when I was a kid because I had kind of people that I didn't trust around me after I moved out of my grandma and grandpa's place. And my only dreams were I would be confronted by monsters, but my goal was to befriend them. So
Okay.
they wouldn't be after me. I could ingratiate myself to the monsters. And so that always stuck with me since I was five. So it's
Wow.
5 years until I was 10. And I've had all that time to resonate and to just contemplate the notion of that philosophical, emotional, like that fixation. And so, yeah, at 10, it seemed logical to confront the topic of horror movies because I felt I was among the monsters then. I was one of the monsters. And so
Okay.
that's what kept me alive all my life was knowing that I can be as bad as anybody else could. And I have tempered with that. My grandmother Blanche, who after my grandpa died, her husband, I would go to her house, like I said, every Saturday, Sunday, and she'd take me to St. Pius X Catholic Church, where I was baptized. And I didn't really understand at the time, but because religion to a child is just indoctrination and you don't know what you're hearing.
Hmm.
So I just applied that to the rest of my life. I'm a good man, but I'm a monster if you want me to be.
Man, there's an autobiography title right there.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know about all that, but I'm just pontificating. But
I
yeah,
like that though. It's a good outlook, I think, to have.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a survival technique that I
Of
think
course.
most people have already adopted now. But they look at being a good person as a facade to hide the monster, whereas I looked at being a good person as a spiritual uh, part of me. And
Hmm.
so it was not a lie or a front. It's just I was good and kind to everyone, which I still am. But if I see a monster, I will match that monster in tonality, and that monster grows to the size of its fish tank,
Hmm.
as they
Man,
say.
I see why that stuck with you all these years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Um, another thing to touch on. You mentioned earlier you're a painter, and that what I read
Mm.
online is that in your teenage years you started a graphic art company that allowed you to travel around British Columbia and paint murals in
Yeah.
restaurants, which is
Yeah, I took
incredible. And I'm curious about rather one what kind of murals you were painting, and I guess you already answered if you still paint.
I oh yeah. I mean, we're about a month away from dropping the leetockar.com website. And it is going to showcase all of my writings and all of my art. I am obsessed with all forms of expression and all forms of art, the performing or the visual or the literary. I am the most Renaissance person that I know, and I don't because nobody really talks about that anymore because Renaissance is like an arcane term. But I love the masters. I study the masters. I've never taken courses on the history of art, but I know it just because I'm an autodidact and I seek these things out.
Sure.
There's nothing more important to me other than being kind to one another is to show the expression of your inner person, your inner vibe, whatever essence, soul, if you will, to other people, because that affects other people. And if you're genuine, it can affect the world around you in a positive way that will make you feel like at the end on the gurney, last gasping death breaths, you will feel comfort in the fact that yes, you did something that you believe made a difference. And that's what is important to me.
What's your favorite kind of picture to paint? What do you like to paint?
Uh, I like acrylics, and I can send you, before you air this, I can send you some pictures that I have. There's a lot of them.
That's cool. Can we
I
put them on the screen so
ab
the viewers can see?
absolute Absolutely. Yeah. No,
Awesome.
I'm very proud of the things that I've done. Most of them have been what, like when my papa passed away, I did an ode to him on canvas, and when my mother passed away, just a couple of years ago, I did an ode to her, and I'm almost finished it. Her name was Laura, and that one I called Laura's Borealis, and
Oh,
it's a
nice.
glow. Yeah. So, and the one from my papa when he died, which made the world just a little emptier for me. He was my bestest friend. I met when I was 15. Didn't
Wow.
know I had a father before that, a real one. I thought the stepfather was my father, but no one was allowed in the family to tell me because they would not be allowed to see me anymore. Now that is
Wow.
on the bad parenting of those whom have passed before us.
Right.
But I met my dad when I was 15 and we had everything in common. So this is a feather in the cap of uh, uh, nature versus nurture, or heredity,
Right.
nature versus heredity. So we, against all odds, became exactly the same person. We liked all the same music, the same philosophies. He was kind of a hippy dippy, super intelligent guy. Like he was like George Carlin. He looked like George Carlin.
Oh, wow.
And
That's awesome.
yeah. And anyway, all these things crafted me to where I am, and that in sort of embedded in me that feeling that art truly is going to be the savior of mankind. It has to. Hate will be the destructor. Art will be that'll be the thing that saves us, I believe.
Yeah. Well, if AI doesn't intervene, hopefully.
No, I don't get me going on freaking AI.
I thought it might
No,
strike a nerve.
don't. Oh no. As soon as I hear it,
Yeah.
my voice has been AI'd before, and I've lost gigs to my own voice that
Are
I don't
you
get any money for.
serious?
Absolutely. And my art, I see some parts of my art out there, and I'm like, that little corner, that section, that's me. So me, hate
Yeah.
AI.
Understandably, especially if your voice has been used. That's crazy. How did you find that out? You just happened to hear it?
I heard it in commercials, to believe it or not. And I was like, that's not a person. That's a combinant of people. And I am one of those people because nobody inflects the way inflect with the sort of timbre that I have, you know. Anyway, and art, please don't get me started. So
Fair. I
anyway,
won't.
let's move on from that one
Okay.
because you're just gonna hear an hour of anger.
All right.
I
Well,
feel the
let's.
same way. I feel the same way about AI as I do about Jackson Pollock paintings. So
Oh, man.
that's a
Okay.
lot.
I've
All
heard
That's
right.
you
a
All
vent
lot.
right.
about Jackson Pollock paintings. So, and I agree. I agree, man.
Yeah,
It's hard
they
to
are.
find well, I don't want to piss anyone off, but I agree with you. Um,
I don't mind. You can agree with the masses. I don't have to. I'm an artist of an individual and specific sort. And I look at the classics, the masters,
mhm.
even in surrealism, uh, started with Magritte to Dali to Vladimir Kush in Maui, that gallery I hung out at, and then to Robert Gonzalez, who is a story time kind of feel behind all of his surrealism. I want to follow in those proud footsteps. And AI is just saying you put in search engine words like a mermaid and a unicorn fighting in fire, and there it is. But it's not handmade. My my theory is the only way that people are going to find integrity in art in the future is if they see the person hand making in front of a camera where it is definitely stated that this is not AI generated person.
That's
Then it
true.
becomes performance art, and then people will believe that it's art. It's unfortunately where we've got to. Anyway, please go on. I told you, don't waste an hour on my opinions on that.
No, no problem. Because trust me, I was about to add some fuel to the fire, but you're right. We'll move
Don't
on.
don't
Don't
Okay.
do it.
step
Away
away
from
from the
ledge.
light.
I'll
Step
put the
away from the
gasoline down.
light. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad
Okay.
we're of agreements.
Another thing we both found online is that, man, you're a man of many talents, but you spent 15 years doing stand-up comedy.
I
Can you
did.
tell us when this was in your life, and do you remember any of your routine, what you were doing?
Oh yeah, lots of it. When I was in the blind camps, I was doing talent shows, and I was always impersonating the characters I loved. And I always won first place. I'm, humble brag, but I was a kid. A kid runs first place. I don't care. It could be any kid. Doesn't have to be me, but a kid, which happens to be me, won first prize every summer. And then I heard the sound. I say a thing, and people respond to a thing in laughter and happiness. And coming from a rather disturbing childhood from 5 until I moved out at 12 and ran away, I had only known angry sounds. And so to hear those happy sounds whenever I made someone chortle, giggle, smirk, or laugh,
Right.
or guffaw, or belly laugh, or pee themselves. I had somebody pee themselves once when I was a stand-up, and I was like, but I threw down the microphone. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's the
The
high
end of
note
my
you've got to leave
career.
on.
I gotta leave on that.
The only thing that comes next is them shitting themselves, and that's a story too.
Yeah.
Well, that involves a lot of, colostomy bags and things, and I would probably slide them under the category of maybe 70 plus. So anyway, I got the bug. I got the bug. And so in Kelowna, I had worked my way doing uh events for downtown businessmen's associations and things like that. And then my name got out to the restaurants, and then I was performing there. And then I went to Vancouver, and my first month there, I went to Yuck Yucks under the tutelage of Mark Dennison, God rest. Um, he gave me my first weekend gig after only one thing, because I just stood there with my big Rod Stewart hair and a trench coat, and I would click from channel to channel with voices and voices and voices. And I got my first weekend spot, much to the chagrin of all of the other guys, because they were like, I've been doing this for 3 effing years, and you come one week and you're there, and you got a weekend gig. I never got a weekend. So I was like, well, I'm sorry you're not funny.
Yeah, well, yeah. Why are they pointing a finger at you? Like, look in the mirror.
Exactly.
Maybe it's your
Exactly.
routine.
Yes. And so that's where it started. Before I left Kelowna, um, I was then the MC for Flashbacks nightclub, and it was an every night gig for 6 months. So I really cut my teeth on that. And I also was the head writer, head performer, and just organizer of the backstage. No, it was the I think it was Backstage Dinner Theater, right next to Orchard Park Plaza in Kelowna. And my very good friend, who's now down the street from me here, John R. Taylor, was doing all of that before me. And he wanted me to fill in his stead as head writer, head actor, a comedian, and director. And so at 17, that's what I was doing, and running a nightclub for kids, youth, and drawing murals for Kelly O'Brien's. That's what you're talking about with my first foray into art. Kelly O'Brien's. I was a street kid at 12, and I would try and get jobs during the day. I was preyed upon by one predator in particular, which is an entirely other thing, a very, very bad man. And so anyway, that's still in court. But anyway,
Damn.
I would go at night to sleep under my bush, which I had to defend every night because it was mine. That was my bush in Central Park in Kelowna. And during the day, I would go to this nightclub. I would go to Kelly O'Brien's to paint, and they flew me all over. I had to take grade 10 off. And then I um, skipped a grade because I took an aptitude test and they jumped me right up to grade 11 because I've always been a particularly curious person. Anyway, without getting too into this, it's too late. But anyway, I would be sleeping in the shrubs at night in Central Park and then going to work either painting murals or being the proprietor of this teenage nightclub where I did all the murals there, and I did all the murals for Kelly O'Brien's. One of my mentors, God rest him, as of 2 years ago, Reg Henry, one of the most vibrant, influential, big brother, uncle, great person. He was my mentor, and he took me all over Vancouver, all over BC to paint all these murals. As a kid, like I was in I just started grade 10. And then he said, we've got 5 other restaurants, Kelly O'Brien's all over BC. And I said, well, do you need murals for all of those? And they said, yes. And I was like, and the next day I told my principal, I'm leaving.
Wow.
And my group home had to be informed too, because I was in a group home at the latter end of my being on the street. And I told them, I'm not going to school anymore, so I think I should leave here as well. And I was flowing as a 17-year-old again at all over BC. So anyway, that is a lot of stuff about me. And now I want to hear you. So because I'm giving you more than I've ever talked about my life to anybody else. So cut and paste whatever you wish when you drop this.
Oh man, we're going to keep it all. We love that you're being so candid with us. Thank you. I'm sure the listeners are too, because I've listened to a lot of interviews and I haven't heard anything like that. It's like, can you do the pony voice?
Right?
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But as I told you the other day on the phone, I said most interviews are like pony centric. And the first time somebody says, so when you were a child, and this is a pony interview, so when you were a child, and I thought, okay, we're getting into some meat of some subjects that I know outside of the MLP universe. And they said, when you were a child, did you ever think you'd be a pony when you grew up? And I was like, oh, kill me now, for God's sakes. This is bullshit. So anyway, I love them all the interviews I did. I love each of the personalities during the interview. It's just in general, I just felt inundated with this atypical, pony-centric, can't color outside the lines interview.
Right.
And I just, I lose interest after a while. Yeah. After my like 125th of those interviews, I totally like, what.
Yeah, it probably just becomes muscle memory where you just start talking and not even thinking about what you're saying. You've said it so many times, and then when it's over, did I say it? I can't remember.
No, that's exactly, right?
Well, especially with such a diverse and colorful background, come on.
Mine has been a very curious upbringing, but I ran away at 12 and I knew that I was a monster if people wanted me to be, if I met another monster. So that's what kept me surviving. So ever since then, I have done things that no blind person should do. As some of your listeners know, I was born congenitally with conal dystrophy. So I have no cones in my eyes. So the daytime, I can't see anything if the sun is out or if the lights are too bright in a situation.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I wear like glasses that are like, well, they're kind of like this, but they're not. But they're kind of like this, but my prescription. So I wear those inside all the time, but because it's a little dark here, I don't care. So I don't have to.
Plus, they make you look extra cool too. So that's a big
thing. Yeah, I'm the only one to make blind people look cool. Oh no, there's Ray Charles. There you go. I'm not
So
going to be ever as cool as him.
so at night you can like what I'm trying to gauge
Yes,
what
night.
you can see like during the day if anything or just like are you able to see us at all?
Well, yeah, of course, because
Okay.
we're right here. I can see both of you very clearly because
Okay.
I have it expanded in a magnifier, so I can see your faces. I can tell
Okay.
you how many pimples you have, or how
Oh, please
your
don't say that on
skin
air.
the pores. Now you don't have, but I could tell the shape of your pores. So anyway, yeah, I have just been having to. It's adopt, adapt, and improve. I've never thought of myself as a disabled person. As a matter of fact, I'm an advocate for the blind. For the There's been a couple institutions that are geared towards helping and financing blind programs. I am
Okay.
one of those advocates because I am in a very lucky position and an unfortunate position. Lucky insofar as I have communication with people that could make a difference. Unfortunate because I'm too blind for sighted people, and I'm too sighted for blind people. So I have
Stuck in the
nothing.
middle.
I got nobody. So there it is. Anyway, let's move
Wow.
on to the questions you want to ask, other than these things.
All right. So as far as voiceover goes, how did that start for you? Where did that come into your life first?
I was at home living in my mother and stepfather's basement, which is where I was kept, with only Monty Python and a encyclopedia set they bought me, which is Funk and Wagnall. So I memorized all of that when I was
Wow.
10. Uh, and yeah, and I realized then in an interview I had heard on CBC, a woman named Kathy Westluck, who was a huge voiceover person. And I heard her talking about being a voiceover artist, and it was in Vancouver. And I thought, what? I thought Mel Blanc and all the voiceover stuff was way far away from me. It's just in Vancouver. I'd been there many times before that when I was a kid to just check my eyes because
Right.
my mother didn't know why I was falling down the stairs so much. So there you go. But I heard that and I was like, I need to go to Vancouver. This is my raison d'être. This is the way I want to go to be in Vancouver. That's okay. I'm only good at some French, but anyway, I just I tend to
Better
give
than
in
me.
to any accent. Anyway, and I was like, I must do that, and so I came there. Doug Parker gave me my first interview auditions, and he really liked my Bobcat Goldthwait, which I will not repeat because it's too hard on my voice, and I always
Yeah.
taste blood.
Yeah,
Fair.
we
So
don't
I'm
want
not
to
going to
do
do that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I would get on a Greyhound with like paper delivery, and I was a Dickie D ice cream bicycle guy with my best friend Daryl Holt, and we would eat most of our stuff. But we did that, and I would save up my money, take a Greyhound, and on my own at 12, 13, 14, 15. I guess it was 15 when I first went there. But I was saving up money and I went on the Greyhound to Vancouver, did the audition for Doug Parker at Ocean Studios, now IPP Ocean. And um, then I'd go back to the Greyhound and I would go home and make up more money to come back again for the next audition. I did that for about a year. And Doug always remembered me because he thought it very curious that a young blind person should come all this way for one audition and then go back home to Kelowna. So he was my entry. The other entry was I won the BC Playwright competition in 1988, and Deanne Henry was the lead on Granville Island, and her husband was, I don't know if you know the name, Donnelly Rhodes Henry from Soap Dish and from uh I can't remember what the other one was. Danger Bay. Danger Bay, where
No, I don't.
every young actor in town was a part of. So he Uh, Deanne said, keep writing every day. That's how you know you're alive. Donnelly said, you could be great. I'm going to buy you a new pair of glasses because I had lost mine and just paint me a picture. So I painted, that was my first canvas painting.
That's so cool.
Um, anyway, lots of history. And I'm probably boring a very large amount of people here. So,
No, no, no. You just worry
No.
about us, and we're intrigued.
Yeah.
okay.
But that's that's incredible. So what was the? Well, before I ask that, actually, I have another question I want to ask you because I had seen online while you were at I think it was at a brony convention, and a question was asked of everybody on the panel. What was it? Was it your first VO experience? What was it, or how was it? And you had said that your first VO experience was not a great one,
It was
but you
horrible.
didn't elaborate. And I wanted to ask you if that's something I'm
Yeah.
allowed to ask you about.
Okay. So Wally Burr was the biggest director in a fledgling community of Vancouver for voiceover. It had not even just taken off yet. Um, a few of the actors, Dale Wilson, Scott McNeil, Gary Chalk, all those people, they had already established themselves as doing voices. So I came on the scene and I was in Conan the Destroyer or Conan something or other. And I was playing a day player and I had met all the cast individually. So I was like, I'm amongst gods right here. And and so Wally Burr sitting in his cabana boat with his cabana boy somewhere in the Mediterranean. His thing was he would make people do over and over and over takes. And the first line I had was, I was blinded by a fire-breathing dragon as a warrior. And my first and only line was, I'm blind. And Wally Burr, being Wally Burr, he made me do it 24 times. Now,
What?
everybody had slowly, that's what he did with people. But he did it with me, and everybody knew that all the cast knew I was blind, except Doug Parker stayed with me. All of the rest came and patted me on the shoulder and said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And Doug Parker stayed because he was my friend.
Wow.
And after my 25th take of screaming, and I thought to myself, if this is voiceover, this is trial by fire. I'm never going to make this. I can't do this. It was so close to home. And then Doug Parker leaned into the microphone and said, Wally, Lee is actually legally blind. And Wally Burr, in all of his infinite wisdom and faculties, said, okay. Well, then I guess that last one was pretty good.
What?
That was my trial by fire. Worst experience ever was right out of the gate. I really questioned whether I wanted to be a voice actor,
Of
thinking that every
course.
experience was going to be that.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
working your way
yeah.
up to that point, I'm sure that first, going there was like, oh my God, this could be the start of my career or something new. And then
Oh,
that,
yeah.
but that would have been the end of a lot of people's journey too. And it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
good on you for
because,
going back after that. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus.
well, I considered then that the industry was a monster. And I know that I can match their monstrosity because
Hmm.
of my dreams as a child. I always took the high road and said, you're not better than me. I can overcome this. I'm a monster too. And
Right.
that is what kept me going.
Incredible, man.
Just kind of looking over, your many voice roles and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, we're going to touch on Street Sharks, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
also saw that some of your credits include GI Joe, Shipwreck specifically. We talked
Yeah.
we talked to Neil Ross a couple years ago. Great interview. I was just curious, kind of taking that mantle, how you developed that. Did you kind of do your own thing? Did you use him for inspiration, or how did that kind of play out?
Good question. You know, uh, I learned early on under the tutelage of many of my friends, my voiceover family, that you read the sides and pay special attention to what the writer wrote about the ins and outs of the character itself. And I always and you have that to go on, and you have the picture, the design that the artists have drawn. And you have to make your best, and I frickin' hate this word, guesstimation, but you just come up with something on the fly and off the cuff based on a picture and an image, and then a personality type that's written for you by the writer. So the artists and
Okay.
the writers are part of that dance that make the voice actor come to life. So it's always been like that for me because it was sort of inculcated to me, if you will, uh, from my peers and predecessors and mentors in the industry.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, obviously, I didn't have a lot of background in My Little Pony, so I'm gonna skip over that. But I know you best as Ripster from Street Sharks. I grew up with
Oh,
that cartoon.
yep.
Um,
I still love it. I still love it.
I just was curious, like, how did that come about? Did you specifically audition for Ripster? Was it, just what was the process like for that?
Okay, we're gonna go all the way back to the Civil War for this one.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Okay, so when I was a kid,
You had me
when I
going.
was when I was a kid, I collected voices, not just impersonations, but I kept creating my own voices, and I still do to this day.
Okay.
Remind me, Stella Drankin. Just say Stella Drankin, and I will. That's my newest one. But I always had those as my in my toolbox as a voiceover guy. So when I came to Vancouver, I had already developed because when I took the Greyhound, I'd always pretend to be English. I say, excuse me, I don't know where I am, but can you please tell me? I don't see very well. What is our next stop here on the paper? And I'd do this, and they'd say, where are you from? And I'd say, oh, Bristol. And then one time, a couple who was English. I said, could you help me with this? Because I just like to play and rehearse in front of people
Sure, sure.
anonymously. And one people said, oh, darling, you're English. Where are you from? And I'm like, well, my father traveled around a lot. So he was a salesman. I don't really know. So that's how I got out of that one. But I was fully packed when I got to Vancouver. And so I used that voice and I deepened it for Ripster and then used that voice. So he became like my own, because I was always sort of sounding like this, which was Casey Kasem, but a little bit
Oh,
dangerous. And so I did that for Ripster, and that was my first lead. My second lead was Darkstalkers, and I took that
mhm.
Ripster voice and I gave him an English accent. So he was Jonathan Talbane. And that every incarnation flows from one to another with me. And
That
that's how I
is
came up with the voice.
that is
I
so awesome.
love you saying Casey Kasem with a bit of
Yeah,
dangerous. Can I start introducing myself like that? Like that I would
yeah,
No,
love
it's
absolutely.
that.
Lee's, man. Back off. Come on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Welcome
love
to
that.
American Bandstand. This next request is coming from little Molly Sheltermeyer with
Yeah.
no arms and no legs, but she sure can rustle.
Welcome back to Casey's Top 20. Or no, top what was it?
All
The top
right.
100 every
Top
Sunday?
20, top 20, and he had American Bandstand.
Yeah.
I grew up with that and the Mickey Mouse Club and
Okay.
Wacky Packs, uh, the crazy bubblegum packs from Wacky Packs. That's what I grew up with, and Monty Python. So that's why I am what I am, and what are you?
I'm still trying to figure it out, Lee.
Yeah.
I'll let you
Yeah.
know though. You'll be the first when I do.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to it.
All these characters, the ones we've talked about, only the tip of the iceberg. Looking at your IMDb, going back, it goes all the way back to like 91. You've quite a plethora of characters in that time that you've voiced. And, I've asked this question Well, just to Charlie Adler and I think to Billy West too, I'm going to ask the same to you because, you have a great admiration for Mel Blanc. I'm sure you've heard the
I do.
story of when Mel Blanc was in a coma. And, his family, the doctors, they couldn't get him to respond. And it wasn't until the doctor said, can I talk to Bugs Bunny? That's when he responded in the voice of
That
Bugs.
is a story
That,
I did not know. That
oh,
is
really?
amazing. No,
Yeah.
that's fresh. That's fresh, man.
Well, I ask, I ask Charlie, Billy, and now I ask you, Lee, is there a character in your repertoire that you feel that bonded with, that you feel that close with, or no?
I like all the characters because I'm always the comic foil for any of the characters except when I'm leading man, but I don't do that anymore. I don't do leading man. I'm always comic because of my comic timing through stand up is that's what I'm known for. But I guess the one I love the most, other than George of the Jungle with his that kind of thing, would have to be Dr. Frog within and Bling Bling Boy from Johnny Test.
Yeah,
So that one, oh, and Bibble, but I can't do Bibble as much anymore because he was like, and I can't get to that range anymore because I'm a middle-aged man.
sure.
And
Right.
but Dr. Frog always struck me as really special to me because and this is why I don't know why, but I think why girls loved Dr. Frog. And I've seen girls with tattoos of Dr. Frog and all this stuff
Really?
because he was kind of a bumbler. He was bumbling, but he wanted to take over the world. He was the only one in League of Super Evil who really wanted to take over the world. And he would always get squished and stretched and smashed and crunched and rolled over and punched and through the air. And my favorite line is, "Oh, I learned it on my keys." That was my favorite line ever because all the things would happen to him. This pathetic, wonderful, maniacal, want to take over the world person. That's who I relate to probably the most, other than Mim Mim, who was very sweet and I guess a little silly for Kate and Mim Mim because that's the child in me that does that.
Sure.
Dr. Frog was Peter Lorre and kind of a shell shock victim. I don't know. I don't know. You
Oh,
know?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's essentially one of those characters that, like you said, has big intentions of taking over the world and stuff, but just constantly getting kicked on his ass.
Yeah. He was the only one out of a tribe of three. There was a triumvirate, a trifecta, if you will, Colin Murdoch, Scott McNeil, and myself. And they Scott McNeil's Voltar wanted so desperately to really take over the world, but he'd always fumble it. And Dr. Frog was the only one with the mind to actually execute the taking over of terra firma.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna have to check that out. I
Yep. Uh,
I have a lot of stuff to check out from this show. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, I have something really interesting. Yesterday, I went out with my brother in the industry. All of the people I've worked with for over like 500 to 2,000 episodes, I call my cartoon family. And so a small clutch of them outside of the industry that I have taken and claimed as friends. I call them my brothers and sisters in this cartoon family, but nobody else. And I went out with my brother, Brian Drummond, yesterday. And I really believe he should be on your show as well. We'll talk about that later.
Absolutely.
I was out with him yesterday, and there's this thing on behind the voice. I don't know, behind the tunes. I think it's behind the voice, and it's this Facebook and it's some entity in the Webiverse. That's the first time I've used that. Anyway, the Webiverse that takes a tally of how many characters you've played. Now, Brian, because of his tally, is number 20 out of all of the world, historically and present day, in animation.
Are you kidding? That's incredible.
All of that. And in the
That's
top
nuts.
100, I, without even thinking about this or knowing about this, I am 90th. I'm in the top 100.
That's
But
awesome.
I know for a fact I have not declared all of the 3 or 4 characters in every episode that I've done. So I know I'm on a par with Brian. I'm going to suss that out and I'm going to get back to them. And I'm going to say, excuse me, 90? No, I'm sorry. I believe it's 21. 19? Whatever doesn't offend Brian Drummond.
Let's go with 19.
There
I'll
we
go with 19,
Yep,
sure.
yep.
That's crazy, though. So is
Yeah.
it? You're just saying that you would be much higher if all those characters were accounted for on there.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at bottom line, it's a self-aggrandizing mental masturbation to
Yeah.
watch your own stuff or to believe your own hype. So I just kind of I come from bikers, independent bikers, caregivers, nurses, doctors, and hardworking people. And I come from the prairies in Canada. That's my stock, my prairie stock people. They keep me humble and they're like, don't get too full of yourself. And so I never do. I just take it like, and the people that watch their own shows, unless it's like me, every once in a while, you want to see because you are curious about what that voice did because it was brand new. You
Right.
want to see how it interacted with the other characters and your other brothers and sisters. Other than that, I don't really pay attention, but now I'm going to. Now
Yeah.
I'm going to go back with a fine tooth and I'm going to get all those characters. 90? What does that mean, 90? Brian Drummond getting 20. No, I refuse. But he does deserve it. He's a talented bastard. Oh my God. He's what I call a workhorse of voiceover.
Okay.
He is just a workhorse. He can do, like me, he can do anything you wish. I
Wow.
had some emotional, psychological troubles about 3 years ago that it kept me away from the industry by my own hand. And so things, people lose track. It's out of sight, out of mind. But I have been doing things in the world and in my own personal writing that I felt was more deserving and more introspective, other than the nervousness of being a crazy person in public around my fellow actors. I'll tell you one. Here's the funniest and most apt thing, which I want to have tattooed. Daniel Ingram, composer extraordinaire of My Little Pony and every other cartoon in town other than Michael Plowman's, who is as well as variant. He is a brilliant. And Hal, oh, I'll remember it. Anyway, those 3 composers, I know everybody that does every job, and Daniel Ingram in an interview said, well, to be a voiceover actor, you have to be a little crazy. And then they were asked, because it was a pony-centric interview, he said, what about Lee Tockar? And he said, well, Lee is a special case. Lee Tockar is kind of like somebody paid a whole lot of money to get him out of an insane asylum. And that is a badge of honor. I will tattoo that.
Wear
That
it
will be
proudly.
my-
Yeah.
That'll be my tramp stamp.
Of all the places to put it,
Well, I don't know.
I know what
I
you're
don't
saying,
know. I
though.
don't know what my wife does back there.
But she'll see it.
She's gonna see it. No, she probably won't. I'll
Oh,
keep
my
it.
God.
I'll put it under my armpit. Nobody will see it.
There you
Anyway.
go.
All right, man. There's a few other projects we have to touch on before we let you loose here. First, your book,
Yes, sir.
The Grim Possession
Yes.
of Chesterfield Couch. Can you tell us and the listeners and viewers about this?
Yes, it is a 14-year in the progress book that is my magnum opus. I did a cast recording of all the A-level listers here in Vancouver, Tabitha St. Germain, the Dobson brothers, everybody, and all the agents, and my literary agent, and all my agents, and all of the people were there in the sound booth, in the sound room. We were in the booth. And I directed it, and it was fantastic. And all it cost me was pizza and beer and wine next door. And I paid Christine Church, the best engineer at that time in my mind in Vancouver. And I paid Roger Monk from Dick and Rogers Studios, whom I love and who's given me many, many good deals and professionalism. He did it like for friends and family, right? So it became a thing after that. It has always been a thing, but now, 14 years later, I've only this month gone back with a fine-tooth comb and said, I can't give this to anybody else to edit. So I want to I want to do it myself, line by line. So I'm only at chapter 3 now, but everything before it is now punctuationally perfect, emotionalistically perfect. And wait. Oh, there we go. And it's poetic and beautiful. And I wanted this, when it's done, I'm going to get a publisher and present my resume of writing, which is extensive. And this is my goal. Forget voiceovers at all. Forget anything I've done.
Mm-hmm.
The art is a sideline. Voiceovers are a sideline. I will be P.S. Pencraft. That is what I'm changing my name to, is Limerick William P.S. Pencraft, or P.S. Pencraft on all my books.
Wow.
Children and or other. That is my goal. That is my raison d'etre. And it is I can recite it. I've recited it for others before. I can recite the opening paragraph, the poem, just the first stanza of the poem that started this all. And it goes like this. Mr. Pencraft is the person I want to grow into when I'm in my 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's a well-dressed man in a suddenly appearing bookstore in an alleyway at night, in somewhere around the boroughs of London. Rain is falling, and people come in on the fifth chime of 4, and they are kind of drawn zombie-like into them, and they sit down on their little squatter seats and little pillows and cushions, and he looks at them as a silhouette before a fireplace, and he says, "There are those who would say that every story has been told, and that there are no more truly great stories to tell. That our rivers of myths and fountains of fables have, sadly, reached the dry end of that well. But there is one story more, from a time long before your earliest once upon a times. One I wish I could say was the greatest tale of ancient days. But in truth, it was just the last one. The very, very last one. The very, very, very last one to survive." And that's the opening poem that started the whole thing.
Beautiful.
And it's not all in rhyme, although another book, Billy Brainwain series, is all in rhyme. But that is the meaning of my life at 55. I have done my time as an entrepreneur when I was a teenager and in my 20s, to being an artist during those times as well, and then being a writer in my 20s and 30s, and a stand-up comic in my 20s and 30s. And now in my 40s, which is when I started this thing 14 years ago, in my late 40s till now, I want to be known as a writer. After this, I can retire with a castle like J.K. Rowling's. One only hopes, but I believe it's good enough to sell a lot of people. It's the nerd in me that says this is geeky like crazy, and it's wonderful. And I know every writer thinks their child is the prettiest one on the playground. But I tell you, this thing is it's pretty good. I don't know the format of what your shows are usually like. Do people that you interview usually pontificate like I do?
Oh yeah.
They're rarely uniform. Each one's kind of like a snowflake. It's different in its own way, unique in its own way, and that's why I like doing this. You never know what
I
you're going
love
to
it.
get. You try to lead it down a certain path, but it takes its own life and goes its own way. That's what makes this fun.
I
The
love it.
normal cut and copy paste interviews are boring.
Yeah,
We like it when we level with people. So,
I love it.
but
Love
Lee, I
it.
will say there better be an audiobook of that.
There
read
is
my
actually,
mind.
no, there is actually. I've started it already.
Oh,
And it's The Grim Possession of Chesterfield Couch is the first and second book. The Grim Possession of William Nobody is the third book, which I've already started and have mapped out. And then the Grim Possession of Yumi Bakimono, which takes place mostly in Japan.
okay.
So, because I speak Japanese a little bit, un
Yeah.
peu,
So,
as the French would say. So, this already started, and the first line of the novel, and I'll just give this because nobody's heard it. It was raining. It was raining, and it was dark. It didn't have to be, mind you. I simply prefer stories that start in the rain. And that's how it starts.
I love that.
yeah.
And you're really harking on almost a David Attenborough kind of a voice. I love it.
Yeah, he was an inspiration for me too.
He
But
was incredible.
I the quirky nature of Mr. Pencraft, I had to set aside from David Attenborough and say this is nobody knows how old he is or where he's come from. But I do want him to be a bit of a trickster. The only thing more trickster-like in the novel is the bookshop itself, which is an entity unto itself, and it plays tricks on Mr. Pencraft constantly. So
So,
that, yeah,
so your poem with Mr. Pencraft, and I don't know if this was intentional, but being a huge fan of like the classic Universal horror, the intro to Bride of Frankenstein, where I forget the actor's name, but that is totally the vibe I was getting, where he comes
yeah,
out on stage.
yes. I never thought of it that way, but now come to think, yes, absolutely, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's nobody said that to me before, but nobody's heard it. Nobody's heard any of these things
Well, hopefully you take that
except
as a
my wife.
compliment because I
Oh, I
have
do. I absolutely,
Time
I
for a rewrite,
absolutely.
Lee.
Randy, you're gone.
No, no, no. I absolutely, yeah, I know, right? But no, I absolutely do. My wife is the only one that has ever heard the entirety of the book, and I read it to her uh, in part. Actually, my mother, estranged from me for 22 years under torture circumstances like Al Qaeda, horrible things that she left in a letter that no boy should ever see or hear about her mother, his mother. Um, Other than I used to read it to my mom every night and try not to be too funny because she'd end up in a coughing fit. I put her in a home that was beautiful. I was in another province, and so I looked after her life and her finances and everything and gave her all of the money I had. And she was the only other person that has known. She is, to this day, the only person who has read or heard. I read it to her every night before she died. She's the only person that knows this book, that has heard this book.
Wow. So, did you? I know you've been working on a long time, but it seems like there's a lot of work for you yet to do. Do you have any idea when this is going to be available for the general public to sink their teeth into?
Okay. Yes, I thank you for the question. Excellent question, by the way. So there is a process. I have October 31st, Halloween Eve, by the time I'm going to get through this because it is the final edit. So it's just editing at this point.
Okay.
So I only have to go through, but I have to go through line by line in order to make it absolutely, positively perfect on every aspect to create not a novel, but a masterpiece and a magnum opus, the thing that is remembered. And the only way I can compare myself with the greats that have come before me is if I do this last stage until October 31st. Then comes the process of finding a publisher and a literary agent to find a publisher which will eventually publish this thing. And hopefully my wife and I will end up in a castle somewhere.
I really hope so too, man.
I really do. Because I give this to, okay, I know I'm talking a lot, but I warned you, I talk a lot. But I want to give this as a gift to the world. It is my legacy. I have already established the Pencraft Awards for Best Short Story and Best Illustration as a scholarship. And that is going to be my legacy through this. Everything is intertwined in my universe of writing and literature and art. Everything is intertwined. Some of my art appears in some of the books, and some of the books appear in some of my art, like the incredible Everywhere Rope. And that is a Billy Brainray novel, #2. And that appears in the Grym. So everything is kind of a comic book. People would say that it's what's the word? Where all the things tie in.
Like multiverse, is that kind of what you're...
Kind of,
Or
yeah.
expanded universe type of...
I guess, yeah. Multiverse, actually. Yeah. So everything is self-referential. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking, but I fear I am becoming pedantic and boring.
No,
But,
not at all. It's just
well,
it's very intriguing to hear not only, about the book, but to hear your passion for it. Because, I had read about this online, but just reading that, I would have had no idea, one, the passion you had for it, and two, that this is what, you want your legacy to hang on, your
yes.
writing career.
Yeah, I don't need to be known as a voiceover actor. I've already established I'm Emmy nominated. I don't need anything more. I was like, okay, I'm pretty much done. I can semi-retire.
Right.
And I did. And now I'm doing art almost every other day, painting in my shop down the street, down the block. And I write for at least 4 hours a day on the things that I love. And I want to share that with the world, a new generation who have already seen the J.K. Rowlings and already seen the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobes and all those wonderful things that brought me up.
Right.
But I want to give them something new because every generation has to have something new that they can latch on to keep that sense of magic and mystery alive. And that is, I feel the mantle of that is on my shoulders. And I know that's grandiose and whatever, but I've been called grandiose by psychologists before. So it's right in my wheelhouse. And that's what I want to give.
I'm excited to see it. You're going to have to keep in touch and let us know when that's available because...
I plan on keeping in touch with you guys anyway, because you're just awesome people.
Good.
But yes.
Okay, another thing we've got to touch on. You and I talked about this the other night, an upcoming project called Owen Radio, which seems like
yes.
Yes. I see. You just lit up again, man. You lit up like when we brought up the book. I love it.
Well,
and you got to send us a sample of it too, which we heard.
Please play it.
We can play it on the show?
Do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
So they are okay. ONUR Radio is sexy programming for a nation full of comic hotties. O and you are. So it's ONUR or owner, like ownerism. So it's
Yeah.
kind of double entendre. But it's ONUR Radio, which is basically a uh, a radio station that their programmers, which is me and my wife probably, are going to take 2 minute maximum snippets of a little slice of life that's comedic, not their bits from their comedy routine, but things they've produced that are like funny little commercials or funny little, uh, 2 minute acts. And we're going to program them into whatever we're doing. And this one you're going to play is a little commercial, and it's unproduced yet. That's just me, but the one that is produced has, you know, background sounds, birds chirping, and the wind rustling, and the wheelchair squeaking down an empty hall. So I'll let you play that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll cut it in right here.
Hi there. My name is Brad, and I'm one of the friendly staff and caregivers at Sleepy Happy Acres. Are you 70 years or older with no family or friends or caregivers or lawyers? Then bring your life insurance policy to Sleepy Happy Acres. You and your wallet can take a tour of our grounds. Sign your checks while looking out our big picture windows, waiting for the big do-over. With no one to come and visit, you'll have plenty of time to sample our delicious pudding that comes in both vanilla and vanilla. Sleepy Happy Acres. Come, sit, wait.
But yeah, that's a taste of the upcoming Owen. You are, and very funny, man. And you say that's just the unproduced clip. It still sounded fantastic. But when do you guys have like a time lined up, or like when this might be releasing? And also, is this going to be something that's like released on like YouTube or podcast players? How can people hear it?
Oh, it's going to be on all the social platforms for sure.
Perfect.
It'll be on my YouTube channel, Lee Tockar, official Lee Tockar, YouTube channel.com or whatever. But it's going to be everywhere. I just want to inundate. My wife is an IT expert, and so she knows all of the machinations of that which I do not care to know about
Yeah.
technology.
Thank God for those
So,
people, because I'm the same way,
uh,
man.
I know, right? So, oh my God. But yeah, but remember too, my goal right now is one thing at a time. I only ever allow myself 3 things per year to focus on because I have literally written down over 178 ideas, all of which are categorized in I'll get to it someday. This is what I'm going to do next, and this is what I need to do now.
Right.
And so ONUR is one of those things that are I need to do now, but sequentially, Grim Possession of Chesterfield Couch and the Grim Possession of William Nobody and the Grim Possession of Yumi Bakimono, that is my priority, bar none, end of sentence, full stop.
I'm excited to hear
Once,
and see both. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, once that's done, then I'll do ONUR. Yeah.
Got you. Well, here's what, since we're talking about it in this episode, and this is going to be released before either of those projects are, when they come out, shoot me links and stuff, and I can go back to this episode, put them in the description. That way people who check out this episode after they're out can just click in the description below. So be sure to do that. Plus, we get to enjoy them too.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll send you a link to the upcoming leetocar.com art page.
Oh, yes.
So that is just about my art and my writing and a little bit about my voice, but it's just basically me in a like nutshell, I guess. And then I will send you clips to my YouTube, URLs to my YouTube, and highlight the latest things that you and ONUR does. And yeah, I just, you know what, you guys, thank you, like genuinely thank you for allowing me to ramble on and on and on. I know that these things are geared towards the host and his interviewer, I don't mean to take up so much time, but I did warn you again. I am,
And we
I
told you
talk,
that we appreciate it, and it's a good
Yes.
problem to have. And we're sitting here enjoying every bit of it, man.
I
I've in
love
the
it.
past week and a half, I've listened to probably 4 or 5 different interviews with you. I didn't hear any of this, so I can't tell you how much
No.
we enjoyed this.
Well, this was special to me because of the roster that you have that come before me, royalty. So me sitting in this little rocking chair at home, I feel like my chair is like festooned in royalty. So I must thank you so much. And so of course you're going to get the real me because, well, just because you are legit.
Thank you.
And you're, yeah, I mean, I am honored. And yes, I'm sorry that other voice actors haven't promoted you as well, but I've already done a couple promotions for you guys and Candair,
Yes, you have.
very
Thank you.
proudly. And I will continue to do that until the day you drop it. And then I will continue to mention it among my favorite interviews in my socials come in the future.
I
Thank you so
can't tell you
much.
how much that we appreciate that. And let me just, I want to preface something really quick because when you and I were talking the other day, I did mention that, like, a lot of these voiceover people don't promote the episode they're on. And I didn't say that in like a crying poor me kind of a
Oh,
way.
no,
I wanted to
no.
just tell that to you, just say how much, the respect you're showing. Thank you for
Yes.
showing us
Oh,
that
well,
respect.
I hope I haven't put you in touch with any of the interviews that you've had before, but I'm sure they all know, even with or without advertising it, that you guys are totally, totally, totally legit. And you manage somehow to get the upper echelons, like the creme de la frickin' creme of the voiceover world. I don't know how you do it,
Neither do we,
but
man. It just,
uh, well, when I heard of the people that had come before, were to have come before me, I I treated this like a special little egg from a specially found nest.
mm,
This was something I really, this is dear to me, and I feel like your listenership and the people that would follow people like you, which are genuine people, because you're genuine people. I feel like I can reach a larger, broader expanse of those genuine people because I am a genuine person who wants to create an environment in the world where expression is natural and important.
right.
Not just me, but everybody else's. And I believe now that I've looked at some of your past interviews, you guys foster that. And that is like, oh my God. It's rare. It's a rarity.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how much those words mean because we don't get them very often. And again, I'm not saying
Well,
poor me, but I'm just
no,
saying
no,
No.
no.
it's
But they're
refreshing to get
all,
that, hear that.
well, thank you. I do not speak unless I have thought about what I'm about to say. And I can honestly say I've thought about what I said, and I mean it even saying it now.
Wow.
Thank you
So
so much.
kudos
Yeah,
to
thank
both of
you.
you and all the team there.
Well, bless your heart, man. It truly means the world to us. Um,
Buddy,
and you
that's
are
my pleasure.
welcome back anytime. I don't want this to be a
Well,
one-time
just all
isolated
you,
thing. Let's
oh,
just,
well, hey, if you want to, and I'll come back anytime for you guys. So if you got just like a topic of the day or what do you think about this and get a couple people on, I'd love to. I don't know if you've known from the past interviews, but I'm a very opinionated man, especially about bad art
yeah.
and bad writing. I will cite for you the examples of Pollock. Jackson Pollock is to me uh, uh, a spinning barf board
Yeah.
of nonsense.
Have you seen like online at all? Because there's like a million people who do similar kinds of things and then sell them online on Etsy stores. And like I see these guys who like put a canvas on the ground, they hang a paint
Yep,
can from a string and like poke it with holes and then spin it. It's like, look at my
yep,
art. And I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, it's just like kind of a symmetrical mess more than anything. But
It really is. There's been people that do that. I've seen there's been people that put their canvas on a lazy Susan to spin it
Yeah.
electrically around, and they pour different colors on top of it. That everybody that's listening that has a mind to know this is not art. That is gravity and physics.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with art
Yeah.
at all.
It's nuts. I'm not. I mean, I'm sure there's probably one or two of them out there that might catch my eye, but I don't ever look at it. I don't know. I think art is supposed to challenge thought, right? And I don't.
Yep.
I don't see how. At least for me, maybe there's someone out there that says, "Man, all these squiggly lines really make me think about life." I don't. That's not me though.
No, nor me. When I first saw Jackson Pollock, and I'll say this for the first time honestly, the first week I was introduced to Jackson Pollock, I thought, okay, it's anti-establishment. It's going against the grain of traditional
Okay.
art of the masters. So I liked it. And then I looked at more of his work the second week and the third week, and then from on and on and on till now. And I just thought, that is not art in an expressive form. That is gravity and physics and splattering a. Oh God! Don't I told you not to get me started.
Hey, you
man.
brought it
I
up
am-
this time,
Put
man.
the gasoline
know,
down, Jeremy.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Oh
God.
man, I want to remind our listeners to check out Lee on socials at Lee Tockar. Is there anywhere else we should be directing people in the meantime? I know you have some URLs that are going up, but like if you have
Yeah.
Facebook.
Well, my socials are all pretty much the same. Lee Tockar, on Facebook, Lee Tockar on Instagram, Lee Tockar on TikTok. I mean, I keep it simple. LeeTockar.com, I had to purchase from a Chinese company
Oh
that,
boy, they saw you
yeah,
coming a mile away, didn't they?
so the day after my expiration date, I was going to do it the next day, but they scooped it and put it up for $7,000.
What
Aw.
My
crooks?
name, based on my reputation.
Crooks.
And then I have a friend at Web Names, and he and we're like that. We're tight. And he said, okay, I'm going to put an automatic thing hold for you when that comes expiring. It came to expiration. He grabbed it and sold it to me for $200. I'm like, oh,
Nice.
thank you. I finally get to own
Wow.
my person for $200, but it's a hell of a lot better than 7,000. I'll tell you that.
Hell
for
yeah, it
sure.
is. I'd say so.
For
Is it
sure.
one of those
Hells
things
yeah.
where they like not only get your name, but like any other variation you could think of, like Lee Tookar
Oh,
voice,
God.
Lee?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
.ca, .com, .voice, .tv,
Yeah.
.world, everything.
Isn't that
Those
insane?
little bastards.
They are the perfect description, little bastards indeed.
Little bastards.
Well, Lee, I want to thank you so much again for being here and sharing your story. It's incredible. My God, the multi-talented Lee Tockar. I mean, Jesus, painting, stand-up, writing, doing your radio show, voiceover. I mean, there's probably musicians stuck in there somewhere too, right?
I play guitar and I sing in a
Uh-huh.
band. I could send you some of that stuff too. It's very good, but only a clutch of people have heard it. I paid and produced for it to be done in one day, in one take, on one session. Flew out to Toronto to do one take and one rehearsal and one take with my friend and ex-writing partner Waylon Mickey. You can look him up in Toronto as composer and stuff. And we did it with just him and on piano and me. And I will be releasing that too. So yes, musician is in there, and philosopher, armchair, and whatever else. I like it all. I like every form of expression because I have a mind to it, and I believe in my heart of hearts it's because I was born with the congenital visual impairment And that has made me the person I am.
Oh, yeah.
If I was like to be totally sighted with all this thing inside me and the brain I have, I might have been a total freaking asshole. Who knows? Who knows? So I like the person I am.
Yeah.
And I thank whatever being there is for all of the gifts, the talents, the friendships, the roads I've been walking, and the protection along that way for for my entire life. And I am appreciative of whatever being or entity that is. And now my thing is to just spread that to others. That's basically the last thing I'll say about me.
Well, you're doing a damn good job at it. And we want to thank you again for being here. Thank you so much, Lee, for taking time to be with us, man.
Bless you guys both. And thank you. As
Thank
the
you,
deaf would say, I'm a deaf blind thing, so thank you. I know
Wonderful.
that it's difficult. And I appreciate what you are doing.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
man.
Lee.
That's incredible. All right, everyone, and once again, that was our conversation with Lee Tockar. I want to thank him so much for taking time to be on the show and being so gracious with his time and his stories. And it sounds like he's going to be back on the show. I think we we hit it off with this guy. He's a hell of a nice guy, and I want to hear more of his stories. I think we both do.
Yeah, and it's always so cool, and I say this probably at the end of every episode, but just hearing the backstories on their careers, like you see these cartoon characters, and kid me is like, oh, it's this one-dimensional thing, and then hearing about the person behind that and their stories, their struggles, their journey, it's just,
Yeah.
this is why I love doing this. It's so cool.
It's I was kind of describing it to Lee the other day on the phone the same way. It's like, as children, we adored these characters. We loved them. We were invested in them. And then as adults, we decided, hey, we want to pull that curtain back. We want to get back there, see how it was made. Who's making us feel that way? And getting to find out who that person is incredible.
Yes,
And this is just another one of those amazing instances. Thank you again so much, Lee. We want to remind everyone to find Lee on his socials. I think it's the same handle everywhere as just Lee Tockar, which I probably have in the bottom corner of the screen, or if you're listening to the audio version, it's going to be in the description. And until we have Lee back on, Randy, where can these people find us?
Go to cannedairpodcast.com. You can see our past guests that Lee was referencing, listen to old episodes, get a link to pretty much anywhere you need to see any Canned Air related things. And if you're interested in coming on our show, you can send us a message on our contacts page.
Absolutely. And don't forget to find us at the socials listed above my head right here. And on the website Randy was just talking about, cannedairpodcast.com, there's a Patreon tab and a merch tab. If you like t-shirts, mugs, hats, hoodies, all that kind of stuff with our logo on it, that's the place to go, cannedairpodcast.com. And I think there's a button on there that takes you to Patreon, but if not, just go to Patreon and search Canned Air. And for $5 a month, get you access to a catalog that is spanning back close to 5 years now. Lots of content on there. And for $5 a month, if you're liking this here, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Because, that's one of my favorite shows to do. How many times do I got to say it, right?
Well, and you get the behind-the-scenes stuff on there that you don't get on the regular,
Amen. That's the truth.
Yeah. All the blackmail is on the Patreon.
Yeah. If you want to blackmail us, that's where you're going to go. But I think, unless there's anything else I forgot, Randy, I think that's an episode?
That's an episode, brother.
All right. Well, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I am Jeremy Colley.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and be excellent to each other.